Everyone, welcome back to my channel. You're gonna have to apologise for the way that I look. I look like a fucking neon pink highlighter. It's like 7:30 at night, it's dark, I've got barely any good lighting, but I wanted to sit down and share my thoughts on yet another book. This is a reoccurring theme on my channel at the moment, and you know what, it makes me feel good because I'm discussing what I love. I've literally got no makeup on at all. I haven't even got wax in my brows or mascara on. Never mind, I'm rocking the pink jumper instead. I am now about to start book 3 in the After series, but I wanted to do my book chat about book 2 before I forget and before things just turn to mush in my brain. I have never read a series that has captivated me as much as this series. And it's not even like it's the best book ever written. If anything, it's really flawed. I love the writing and the way that the author is and how the books are, obviously, because that's why I'm reading them. But there's so much, I don't know, like emotional abuse in there, and I don't know, like it's such like a corrupt sort of, it's not corrupt, but it sort of is at the same time. It's such like a damaging book, I guess, for your, like if you were to go through it. But it's just so addicting. So this one is called After We Collided by Anna Todd. So this is the second one in the After series. If you didn't watch my first one, go back and watch that. There are 5 books in total in this series, and Jesus Christ, it's such a good series. I am drained from reading it. It's completely taken over my life. I'm completely obsessed with it. I can't relate to any of the characters in any way, shape or form because they're all late teens, early 20s, having relationship dramas and going to college. And I'm a 25-year-old mother. It's just not relatable at all, but it's just so good. And it's not just me. There's a girl that I speak to from my book club called Emmy. I've been speaking to her for years and we've been reading them together, and she's just addicted as I am. The film comes out on April 12th and I've just been obsessed with it. I've been stalking their Instagrams like it's not healthy. I've written down some topic points just because so much happened in this book and I completely forgot what happened. So my non-spoiler section, again, if you aren't aware, I didn't mention it in the first one. Anna Todd wrote this, like it was fan fiction. She wrote it, I want to say it was like 5 or 6 years ago, on an app called Wattpad, which is where you can read books for free. I still think it's around now. Since then it went massive. I want to say it was read like 1 billion times on Wattpad. It was insane. Since then she's had publication deals that's been turned into books, and she's now got a movie deal. So it's a pretty big thing. It's based on fan fiction about One Direction, which sounds really weird to say out loud because I'm not into fan fiction at all. But the main characters, I say the main characters, the main love interest is based off of Harry Styles, but he's not in a band or anything like that. It's literally just about his appearance. Since then all the casting and stuff has been done. He doesn't really look anything like Harry Styles, but I'm completely fine with that. So that is what it's sort of set off of. I think in my first book talk I just got so overwhelmed about the book, I just wanted to talk about the book and not like the backstory. So it's set off of like the character or the people in One Direction are sort of within the book, but they've got different names. And since the film's been sort of, the trailer's been released, the people that she wrote about, she obviously wrote about One Direction and it's all mainly white people. Since then it's more of a diverse cast. So I think Louis was supposed to be Landon in the book, but now he's like a black guy and he's great, and I love the casting. I can't really say anything that's not going to spoil book 1. I've never done a follow-up, I don't think, of a book series. I don't think I've ever done. Have I done that? No, I don't think I have. It's a first for me. So non-spoiler section, it carries on from the first one. So if you like the sound of what I'm talking about, which you probably haven't even clicked on the video because it's book 2, but if you like the sound of what I'm talking about, read book 1, because as soon as the last chapter's in book 1, book 2 takes over. There is no world building or anything like that. It's already been done. Like, you can literally just carry on, which is great. It's what I love. When I get into a series, I literally fly through it. So yeah, it's carries on straight from where you left off, and this time it's from 2 POVs, which I love. I didn't think it would happen, but in the first book we just have Tessa, the main girl in the book, as her POV, whereas in the second book we get Tessa and we also get Hardin, and it makes it really like interesting, and you learn so much more about him as a character. In the first book you just think he's an absolute prick, whereas in the second you sort of understand his thinking and his defensive mechanisms and what makes him tick. Like, you just see it in a completely different light, which I found really refreshing. But that's all I can really say. I loved the book. I gave it 5 stars again. I loved it just as much as the other one, if not more, just because you had the other element of him. But that's all I can really say from my non-spoiler section. So leave me a comment below, let me know if it's something that you want to read or if you're interested in trying it. I don't think, again, like I said previously, I don't know if it's going to go down in price. It's currently £3.99 on Kindle. You all know me and how much of a bargain hunter I am, but I have gone out and spent £3.99 on these books each per book because I am obsessed. So if you haven't read the book and you don't want to get spoiled, stop watching now, because I'm going to go into my spoiler sections. I apologise that I keep looking at my little shopping list of topic points, but I just need to discuss all my thoughts. So, spoiler section. Honestly, as soon as I finished that book, I read it over a weekend. I started on the Friday night and I finished it Sunday morning, as in like 12 AM on Monday. It was a big book. I think it was like 670 pages. Probably one of the biggest books I've ever read. And I was, like I said, I've been reading it with my friend Emmy. And we both finished at the same time. And I was like, Emmy, like, my brain is fried. Like, I literally I can't function right now. Like, I just can't. So much happened in that book. Honestly, I'm just getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Me and reading is just something else. I just don't even know what to say. So much happened in that book. It was crazy, and I've just gone over and skim read just a couple of bits just so I can have it fresh in my mind for this video, because it's 2 days since I read it, which is ridiculous. 2 days on and I'm just so fried by it. You start off obviously where she's found out that the whole thing was a bet. Obviously deep down I think we all know that it started off as a bet and then it got a lot deeper for Hardin. But she gets in Zed's car, bad start, and then sort of heads back to go see Landon, and all of that happens, and I completely forgot that that was like what happened. And then she takes the business trip with Kimberly, Christian and Trevor to Seattle to scout out the new office and see if it's something where she'd like to go, because obviously Seattle's always been like a dream for her. So we do all of that. We see the pretty raunchy sex scene. That's the most, I want to say exotic, but that's not the right word. Explicit. We see the most explicit sex scene. Obviously fueled with drink and stuff, and she regrets that after that. We see this backwards and forwards sort of thing where she goes back to the motel because obviously she's left him, and eventually she ends up back at the apartment I think she goes to collect some things, and then Hardin walks in with his mum and she's like, fuck, what do I do? And I really liked that. I liked seeing the sort of, I want to say, rocky relationship that Hardin has with his mum. Obviously he really struggles to let people in, and then to see the other side with him and his mum and how he is and stuff. I just really liked that aspect. I really liked Trish as a character. I thought she was great. I thought she was lovely. And I liked that whole sort of, I liked the whole thing. I didn't know how they were going to get back together, and the fact that she sort of felt like she had to stay there to put a front on for him, for his mum, and then she sort of started taking it really slowly but still potentially giving it a go. I really liked that. I liked the whole sort of run up to Christmas when their relationship was fragile. Obviously him doing whatever he could to win her back, and them like going Christmas shopping, and those little scenes I really liked. Just them being them, I really liked. One thing that I have struggled with this book was just all like arguments all the time. That's one thing that I've said before and I'll say it again. It's quite repetitive that they just like, what is the word, like petrol to a lighter. That's not the phrase at all, but that is how is it toxic? Yes. How like flammable their relationship is that one spark of something, it just ignites the other one, and it's just always backwards and forwards. There's no communication. And in this book you start to see that Hardin's barriers are going down and Tessa's are going up, but they try and work together. So again, there's a lot of character development, especially on Hardin's side. Because we've got his POV, we see him in such a different light, and it's definitely something that me as a reader, I really enjoyed that. You see that he says all these things out of spite, and in the heat of the moment he goes down and then he takes 5 minutes to chill out, and he's like, fuck, like I shouldn't have said that, I know I shouldn't have done, but I'm too proud to say otherwise. It was just nice to have that dynamic. I think it was just after Christmas that shit hit the fan. His mum was still there. She let slip about how it's not unusual for what Hardin's done to Tess, and he's done it before to a girl called Natalie. And we find out this whole thing about how previously, whilst living in England, he was an arsehole, even worse. They used to do bets and things like that, and obviously that's why he did it with her. But with this Natalie, he filmed them having sex, and it was just grim, and my heart broke again for God knows how many times. How twisted he was, or is. He was still quite twisted, I think, because he had a no fucks given attitude when he was telling Tess, or when she found out. He was like, well, it wasn't you, sort of thing, and it just wasn't right. And then I think I can't remember exactly, but he storms off and he came back with this massive letter, putting it all out on the table and explaining it to Tess, and I really liked that. I thought that was really sweet. He obviously needed to do it, and that letter obviously meant a lot to Tess, and I think she understood that it was hard for him to open up. So I liked that whole aspect. And we obviously have what happened at New Year's. So again, bad idea. It's just so frustrating reading them as characters. Hardin wanted to stay in, Tess wanted to go to the party at the frat house, and I was just like, why do you want to do that to yourself? Like, you know something's going to happen. Like, it's not ever going to end well going into that environment. I don't think it's ever ended well, them going there. She wanted to play Truth or Dare. Shit happened. No, I can't remember. Did they play Cherry Sour Beer Pong? And then they wanted to play Truth or Dare. Or it was the other way round. She got in a fight with Molly. To be fair, don't blame her. She deserved that. I really liked that bit. They went and had sex. They had New Year's, and then Hardin disappeared during the party. That was it. Then Tess came walking downstairs and saw him saying to the girl, don't mention that we were in the room together or something, and then she just fucking loses her shit, runs out in front of him, and then just gets with this guy right in front of his face. And I just thought, you're so mature. Why would you do it? Because you know how he's going to react. You're then fucking going off of his shit, and it was just why? Just not necessary. Her just saying, what was that all about, would have solved so much drama, but oh no, drama follows them like flies, and I was so annoyed. Their relationship is where they just do things out of spite, so that happened. He was then fuming with her because of what happened, and then a massive fallout from that, and it was just ridiculous. I went back to the UK. Tess was obviously waiting for Hardin to call her and resolve everything, and it was just a big mess. They're both so stubborn, and they both didn't give in. In the meantime, while Hardin wasn't there, when we saw that Tess went to go and start getting cozy with Zed, didn't like it, didn't sit right with me at all. You just don't go for your partner's, even friend in a friendship group, you don't do that, let alone like one of his best friends. You just don't do it. And she did it. She obviously was really emotional, and he was there for her, so I get why she did, but it was just never going to end well. I don't like Zed. I don't know what his ulterior motive is. Like I said, I'm now about to start the third book, but just something about him. Tess describes him in the book like he's really sweet, and he's always there for her and things like that, and I think they're going down the line that Zed's in love with her, but I just don't trust him. I think he's snaky, and as much as Hardin is an asshole and treats Tess like shit, I just don't like Zed. I don't rate him. When Tess and Zed started getting quite close together, I was like, no, not okay with this. I've also written down, I can't remember when it happens, Zed texting Tess from Hardin's phone. That's for Hardin's birthday, I can't remember whether that was before or after he went to the UK, because again my brain is fried from this book. But when I didn't see it happening, I was so confused when Hardin texts Tess being like, this party's really shit, I'd rather be with you. She's like, okay, come over. She bakes the cake and then she waits up for like 3 hours and he doesn't show up. I was so angry. I was like, what the fuck is he playing at? And then when the story then spiraled and we learned, or when I was reading it, I then just suddenly twigged, because at the end of the scene, when the strippers came, Zed was like, Hardin, here's your phone, because he left it on the sofa or something. And then I was reading, before it came out, I was like, oh my god, he texted Tess off his phone, like he was the one that said, I'll be over in 30 minutes. And then Hardin never showed up to make Tess and want to go for Zed. I was just like, bah, not okay. So again, he's sneaky. I don't like that. Hardin was in the UK, he met up with, or he bumped into Natalie. I really like that. That gave him some clarity, and I think she moved on quite fast. Obviously she went through what she went through, and then she got engaged, married and pregnant within like 3 years. And she was saying like, if you meet the right one, you meet the right one. I think that was a really big like awakening point for Hardin, to think, if Tess is the right one, like why are we still having this sort of bickering relationship when I can have what Natalie's had, and she's moved on from the experience. But one thing that I did find reading the section when they're in the UK, obviously because I'm from the UK, I get the cultural, what's the word? When she gets things wrong about, I get the cultural, I don't know what it's called, when she gets things wrong basically. So I think, because obviously Hardin's British, his POV, when she was like, oh, I saw Natalie on the sidewalk, I remember that. It's like, no, we don't call it a sidewalk because we're not American, we call it like a pavement or on the path. What else did she write? Oh, she said about getting a cab. We don't really call it cabs in the UK, we call it a taxi. And then there was another scene when he was in the UK, and he said about how this guy that he beat up couldn't afford the healthcare. In the UK, we don't pay for healthcare unless you go private, but we have the NHS. So just small things like that irritated me, just because I wanted her to do her research fully. And as a British person reading it, I noticed that that was incorrect, whereas I think if I was to be an American reader, wouldn't pick up on it at all. But hey ho, that's like my only real negative comment about the book, I guess. Written down on my little shopping list note about 81%, page 385. This was a quote. Okay, right, I've just had to refresh my brain. Oh god, this book, I just can't deal. So, the quote that I'll get to is from when they first meet up after all that time apart, which really pissed me off, that whole situ. She went for dinner at Christian's house, and he showed up after them not seeing each other for like 2 weeks, and it started an argument, and it ended really badly. She went to stay at Zed's house. She ended up staying in his bed. She didn't do anything, but just the fact that she was in his bed, I was tear her hair out. I was so angry at that. To go and pick her up from Zed's house, and then shit hit the fan, and she went back home to, I say home, she went to Landon's house. And Landon gave her a quote. Landon said to her, just because he can't love you the way you want him to doesn't mean that he doesn't love you with everything that he has. Literally my heart broke. This book brought me to close to tears every single time. I just felt heartbroken throughout the whole thing, because they both just want to be together but they don't know how, and I don't know if it's ever going to work out. They're too stubborn, they're too strong-minded, they're both so fiery. Don't know if it's ever going to work out for them. I just, like, this book just completely fried me. I can't get over how much happened in this book. It just flies by, and that's the great thing that Anna Todd has. Like, you'll just say, oh, just read one more chapter, and then you might be then reading it from Hardin's POV, or you might be left on a little bit of a cliffhanger and you want to find out what happens, and then you'll have someone else's POV. Like, it's just so good the way that it's written. End of the book, we obviously find out, like at the very end of the book, like the last chapter, oh no, we don't, we have to fight, fuck. Hardin obviously doesn't want Tess. I've just thought of so many points that I like. I liked it when he started gym class with her and they did yoga. I found that so funny. I loved that scene. I also loved the part where they started, it's really grim and really like TMI, but when they were talking about periods and period chats, I found that really funny, like the little anecdotes that he would say about periods. I found that really funny. But then he got in the fight on campus with Zed, which then lent him to be, was it temporarily expelled until his hearing or something, which we then hear in book 3. But at the very end of the book, the last chapter after he goes to get his tattoo, which is a quote from Pride and Prejudice. I don't know how to pronounce it, that book. The last chapter is like when they're walking out of the tattoo parlour and then they walk into Tessa's dad, which I didn't see coming at all. Again, it's another different diversion. It's left on a really big cliffhanger. We don't know whether Tess is relieved to see her dad, how Hardin's going to deal with it. Is he going to get kicked out of college? Is she going to move to Seattle? She's obviously planning on moving to Seattle, but we don't really know the extent, whether she will or not. Will Hardin go with her? Like, there is so much going on, so much that can happen in the next 3 books. I am going to do updates on the next 3 because my brain, I just feel like I need to remember this series as a whole. Normally I wouldn't gush about a book so much, but I just love it so much. I'll probably do like a movie reaction and everything as well because I really just enjoy this series. It's a bit trashy, it's a bit young, it's a bit raunchy. Sometimes it's not good for your brain, for all the abuse. I don't like to say the word abuse, but like the arguments and stuff they have, it's so unhealthy for them. I love reading it, so I'm going to continue. I'm now going to start book 3, which is called, give me a second, oh they're just so good, so good. Is it called After We Fell? After We Fell. I'm going to start that. I've already read the sample, and I've just paid £3.99 for the next book. Leave me a comment below, let me know if you agree with my thoughts. I'd like to think after you've watched this massive ramble about this book you would have read it. I've recommended it to so many people. Some girls on my book club are reading it as well, and I just love it. Completely obsessed with it. It's getting to the point now where Neil's like, are you going to stop reading a book? I'm like, no, you do you play your games on FIFA or PlayStation, whatever you want to do. He'll be sat on the sofa and I'll be sat there just reading my book, and whatever he says just goes straight over my head because I just love it so much. So just threw it on the floor. I'm now going to go read my book, have a bath. I hope you all enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.